very sexy evening. Downtown, got the late night shift, rolling up like this. Got a fish pack of Roy's, the vice of this boy. Try to strut as I walk. When I'm cruising my block.
I hate festivals. I had no interest in doing it. No, I hate birthdays. I hate special days. As a kid, I used to always vomit on Christmas and Easter. I think if you have special days and you give so much of a shit about your special days, then you need to take a serious look at the rest of your life, you know?
Kick it, Ricky.
I think 5 years is a really significant period of time for a label or a music entity or any arts entity, especially now, because with the internet, the feedback loop is so small that for something to keep going and growing over a 5-year period in like this current culture means a lot.
There was never a time really when I thought to myself that like, wow, this is really special because it's still going. It's just been very naturally evolving.
5 years from now, 10 years will be the new 5 years. And in 5 years from now, every band's gonna sound like Elton John. And then for 10 years, these Elton John bands will just reign supreme, and it's gonna whip ass.
Let me clear something up. This was Mike Sniper's idea to do the festival. It was taking a really long time for everything to come together, at which point I think he kind of was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I was like, no, like, I want to do this. This was your idea, and it was a great idea. So I basically took it upon myself to will this to happen and talk to John Chavez and John, who's booking the festival, made it happen.
Mike is pretty funny. He's great in that he comes up with like these crazy ideas and then surrounds himself with the type of people who can like make it happen. And the label in general has just kind of been like that. He's like, I want to do this. I want to reissue this record. I want to sign this band, and it's the same way with the fest. He's like, I want to do this fest. We're gonna do a big professional thing, pay our bands well, all this stuff, and then is like, do it.
It's all about the bands playing, you know, and kind of like what I relented and decided to go through with it when I was like, oh, you know, I was thinking about, wow, Matador 5-year anniversary. If there was a lot of footage of that, that would have been cool. What would that lineup have been like? Or what would the 4AD5 or Factory 5 or all these kinds of things? It's kind of I tend to always think about stuff like that as a record collector. And as a fan, I'd like to think that in 20 years, some future fan of the band's like, I can't believe they all played together in 2 days, you know? Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. We have a wide spread of personalities on our label. We have guys like Jack, and then we have guys like Dustin who kind of keep quiet about most stuff, and then we have outspoken people like Cole, who I love that Cole's outspoken.
You know, there's just some people out there are like cool, and some people out there are just fucking music industry scum. And it's really easy to spot those people, and those are the type of people that, like, you know, you're talking to people, sending out your music, saying, hey, it'd be cool to work with you. Nobody gets, you know, some people get back to you, and then your album comes out and it gets like on Best New Music, and then all these people email you and you're just like, whatever, fuck you guys. Like, where were you last week? You know, just being like, I think your band's really cool. It's like, you don't think that. Somebody else told you to think that. The coolest thing about Capture Tracks is that every band that's on the label put out their first release on the label, which is cool, you know? It's like you just grew these bands from nothing rather than just like picking up, you know, whatever's like cool.
basically, before I had Capture Tracks, I had Radio Heartbeat Records, which is primarily power pop and punk reissue label. And I love that stuff still to this day, but I'll tell you what, after only releasing that, throwing a festival centered around that, and doing a DJ night to promote it every week, it's the last thing I wanted to hear. So I was like, at the same time, when Blank Dogs was getting a little modicum of success, I was like, I can put out a Blank Dogs record on a different label. I just need to have some money. It's like, okay, Power Pop 7 inches. I think it was a total of, 200 to 300 records. Wound up making over 10 grand on eBay. But that is funny, because that's what made the whole process of Capture Tracks feasible. I turned Power Pop into these two weird lo-fi 12 inches, Blank Dogs and Dum Dum Girls. I'm like, that's interesting, I guess. If you believe in the record, make it happen. That's kind of what, to me, as a record label, what vinyl means. It's like, I believe in this enough to manufacture 2,000 of these, and I hope to God I sell them, because if I don't, fuck, That's kind of like, but that's what you need in order to like, well, shit, I'm gonna sign this band, so I'm prepared to do this.
Basically, we want to help people who need it the most, people who are really great songwriters who need help getting the exposure they deserve. I feel like a lot of bands that have already put out a record, it's like, that's cool, like that's great you put out a record, but if you already did that, you don't need us to help you facilitate that process.
I guess it was 2009 when I first heard about the label, and I honestly didn't know that much about them at the time. It was still like a very small operation. It was just Mike. I think he was working out of the basement of Academy Records over in Williamsburg. I was just working on music for fun at the time, and this was when people were still using MySpace, and so I had some songs up on MySpace and added the label. Just, going through a bunch of labels and adding them, not really expecting anything or even messaging them. But like a week later maybe, I got this really cryptic message from Mike, just this one sentence message being like, hey, do you want to do a record? And at the time, I'd never put anything out. I didn't know how things worked, and I just thought it was so strange. But I was excited, of course, so I tried to get more info out of him, and the whole time it was just, I was kind of terrified of this mystery guy that I had no idea who he was or anything about him, really. And it wasn't until I met him in person that everything kind of made more sense. But yeah, that was how I became involved with the label.
I didn't really have any expectations, and when I got here, I was really overwhelmed at the amount of bands, and the amount of good bands. I was going out every night. I was just looking at, show listings and just going out every night and just seeing what these bands were, and it was really overwhelming. And I was like, God, with the amount of good bands, like no one is gonna give a shit about what I'm doing, and I had like 2 months left on my lease, and I was gonna move back to North Carolina and go to school because I just didn't have any money and I didn't know what I was gonna do. And that's when, like really last minute, I sent the demo out to Capture Tracks, like not expecting to hear anything. So, that's like, I don't know, I guess that's kind of why I feel so closely related to the label, because they kind of saved me from, going into this black hole of nothingness where I would not even like to think about where my life would be right now if I didn't send those demos out.
When I met him 3 years ago, he was real, like we went out and had drinks. He was a band guy, like dogs, you know, like it was pretty peer-to-peer. It felt kind of like relationship as opposed to other people that we had talked to that may have been older, wearing a suit and tie, slightly more boring.
We had only played like 2 or 3 shows before we got an email from Katie about this tape we'd put on our MySpace.
I think he floated the idea, Mike floated the idea of like a single, and then he saw us, and afterward he was like, yeah, we can do this.
I'll put a single out. And then after we started recording the single, and we were playing like our 6th or 7th show, then that's when we were like, all right, we're making a record.
I just always wanted to be on this label. Like from the minute I started the band, I tried to do everything to like get their attention, you know. Before the band even started, really, I asked Katie to be in the band. I was like, hey man, you should play keys. And then our first show, we covered a Blank Dog song. It's kind of shameless, but it, you know, word got back to Mike pretty quick, and you know, Katie was like playing stuff in the office, and it happened pretty quick, which was awesome. I was so psyched. I was like, man, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
I remember I was sitting in my kitchen in Montreal. I was really sick. I think I had tonsillitis. I got an email, and it just said the subject was rock and roll nightclub, and then in the body it just said, tell me about this. And then it said Mike Sniper, Capture Tracks owner. And I was like, what the hell is this? And you know, I get weird emails like that a lot. Turns out he didn't string me along, so God bless that Shitfather.
Katie was calling it the like Capture Tracks All-Stars. I think Mac was calling it Shitfather.
Cole used to play with me in Beach Fossils as a guitar player, so it's the first time we've played together in a while. And you know, I've played music with Jack from Wild Nothing as well, but you know, it's cool to get together with them, and everyone just immediately assumes their duty, I suppose. You know, there's not really anybody stepping on any toes.
When it's my band, yeah, sure, maybe I'm like, you know, hey man, check out how big my penis is. Like, let's do it, rock and roll. But in that band, you know, they were like, do you want to play drums? I was like, yeah, I love playing the drums. So.
Make the music, and that's one thing, and then it's just like this completely different world that you have to enter in, basically be your own manager. Because if you hire a manager, they're just gonna fuck you over.
Well, how are they gonna follow up that buzz album, so to speak? And that's always been the case in the music industry, but now it's like, how many times do they? It's rare. I actually, when I was talking to DIIV about their next record, I actually did research in terms of like how many buzz bands' second albums, third albums have done better than their first. You can put, in the past 4 or 5 years, you can count them on 2 hands. It's really bad. This is what's going to continue to happen as long as you have this ravenous consumptive. Bands will tell you this when they go on tour. They'll have one amazing tour in the UK, and then they come back and nobody cares about them anymore.
We started touring. You know, at first they're all just like, I'm so excited to hear these songs. And then after about 5 months, they're like, are you gonna do something else? And then like 8 months, they're like, where's your next album? And I'm like, oh God, I gotta go home right now and I gotta write the best album ever. But I've been home for like a month and a half or 2 months or something now, and like, you spend a little bit of time being like, oh, like man, like this song's not good enough. Like, and then you put the old album on, you're like, oh man, Like, I don't know what to do. But then you realize, like, oh yeah, I didn't make that last album because of, you know, some weird pressure. I made it because I was having fun. So you eventually get back into like the cycle of like, yeah, like I'm recording this song, you know, it's an enjoyability thing and like a pleasure thing. So right now I'm still relearning how to get back into the like chillin' aspect.
It's great. I love the current music industry. It's a lovely field to work in. It's zero stressful days. Every artist is happy all the time. I mean, music people are horrible, horrible people. All of them, myself included. They're just the worst. Because it's like, take the weirdest people that have burned all their bridges from high school, who've never really matured, and were never cool, and now create a social hierarchy for them while they're in their late 20s to their early 40s. We're setting up the worst high school ever, except it's old people, you know? It's terrible. How many labels at this point are able to retain bands after doing their first record if they're not one of the big 6 or 7, 8 labels? Our thing was, well, we're gonna grow with these bands. We're gonna hold on to Wild Nothing. We're gonna grow with Wild Nothing is not gonna outgrow us, you know? So I had to grow real fast. And so that's allowed us to retain these bands that we have when we found them. I mean, that was just due to me being completely crazy and constantly reinvesting and not saving a dime. I just want to get there. I want a label to get there to maybe hopefully make some small change in the way things are done. And it's all tied into everything we've been talking about. I mean, I feel that way about everything with consumer culture. It all has to be curated if you're going to purchase it in an era where everything's free media.
Of course I'm curious, and you know, we've even like talked with other labels, and that's just something that happens, but at the end of the day, you know, like I still wanted to release records with captured tracks. You know, there's something really rewarding about being able to grow your band at the same pace as the label.
I mean, there's a lot of great music out right now, and there's a lot of, I do think that Mike's got I have a lot of friends that are doing cool things at other labels as well, but he is one of those labels that I just pay attention to, I suppose, whether or not I was on it or not. I really wanted to be on it. There was other labels that we were talking to at the time when it came about, but I really wanted to be on this label because of the general aesthetic, and I really like the way everything looks. I like the logo, I like the releases, I like the bands. You know, it was a pretty uniform thought, where a lot of labels, I feel like, will pick random bands they think are gonna blow up and stick their name on them.
Mike's not searching for a band that's going to be the next huge band on a blog or the next band that's going to sell really well or whatever. He's not particularly interested in that. He just wants to sign bands that he thinks have good songs and, you know, have interesting melodies or whatever. You know, it's not even about if these bands are even like technically talented or anything. You know, I feel like that's really special and that's really rare.
For everything that I want to do right now and everything I can kind of foresee in the near future, is being accomplished with this label. So especially with the internet and like how things don't need the money they used to in order to propel them into limelight or to people's ears. So I think that it's not necessary anymore.
I also have enough college debt that like to get an advance from a major label seems like too much of a risk, honestly.
I'll play the game as much as anybody, you know, lets me play. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to get a day job, and that's how you do it. So And sure, like, you know, maybe like, oh, you jump through this hoop, you gotta do this weird thing and this yada, 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 but I don't really mind. If it gets super crazy, then you just say no. But if it doesn't, then nah, I don't really care. So, but it is nice to have, you know, I feel comfortable with these people instead of like some strange person that I've only corresponded with on email that like wants me to like do some, you know, strange naked photo shoot or something. I don't know, you know. You could get asked anything, but yeah, they're good peeps. I don't know.
Hopefully that it could, maybe somebody wants to start a label, can see it, it's like conceivable, even if you don't have income or the vast back catalog, or this seems like the competition's too much. It's like, you know, if you work really hard, you can do it, you know. And even if you fail, it's okay, I think, you know. It's just like, I think there needs to be more labels, basically, you know, and there needs to be more labels that are start up out of nowhere and become successful, as opposed to, and in no disparaging ways. It's like all the labels that exist now that are kind of the vanguard are there for a reason, and they should stay there. And then there's gotta be new blood bringing in new artists. That's for the sake of music, I guess, you know. Otherwise, it's just gonna deteriorate. Whether or not you like the music we put out at all, it may be like, you can see that it's possible that in 5 years from nothing, you can make something, maybe not huge, but something.
If not for this lady, I don't know where I'd be. Or this man. Give it up for Mike Sniper. One more chorus and then it's goodbye. Thank you for joining us. Chill it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Captured Tracks. Bye-bye.